Rasta. Living off the land, that's his mantra. Name is Bankie Shabazz King. Hear me well. Got a patch of green and a story to tell. One morning peace was the order of day, till a police van came to block the way. Warrant in hand, looking stern and grand. Bankie just lean on his hoe and stand. They asked Farmer Bankie, what you doing here? He said, cultivating what I hold dear. This is my medicine, this is my tea. This is the gift that Jah give to me. They say, but the law don't see it that way. Bankie said the law changed one day. Down to the courthouse, in the heat of the sun, Bankie tell the magistrate, work just begun. I grow for the elders, for the aches and pain. I grow for the young who walk in the rain. This ain't no commerce, this ain't no vice. This is Nevis tradition, it have a price. Now here's the irony, the whole island know. They approve the farming, they promote the show. Same ones who clap, turn around and seize. But the farmer's still standing, taking the breeze. The magistrate nod, say you can play your part. Go on to the show, let the music start. Bankie thank the court, give a little smile, but his confiscated parts, them keep a while. So he walk on stage with his head held high, sing about the land beneath the Nevis sky, yeah. Them take the part, but not the soul. Bankie stand, he in control. What he plan, truth and right. What they keep, a losing fight.
And the global greetings. Welcome to another edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. It's another beautiful Tuesday evening here in Oli and Lioniga, the indigenous names known for the islands, actually, the indigenous names for the islands known as Nevis, Oli, and Lioniga, St. Kitts or St. Christopher. I also want to say good evening to our brothers and sisters throughout the entire Eastern Caribbean, and morning, afternoon, or evening. Some one of these greetings may be applicable to you depending on where you may be geographically around the globe at this time. Tonight we have another wonderful edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. I have with me my usual co-host Shabazz Bankie King, and we have our special guest for this evening, G.A. Dwyer Astaphan, and we will give Bankie an opportunity to introduce himself, and then I'll provide a brief intro or bio of Mr. Astaphan, and then give him an opportunity to add or correct anything that we may have read, and then for him to give us a synopsis of himself, a little background information on himself, and then we get into some of the topics for this evening. But before we do, I want to say that this evening's edition is sponsored by Islander Water Sports and the good folks there on the rocks over there at the Oli Seawater Taxi area there on Nevis. Nevis Islander Water sports. They have jet skis and they have some of the fast ferries that take you between Reggae Beach and Oli. And if you want private charters to go to St. Martin, Statia, Anguilla, some of the neighboring islands, they also are able to take care of you. If you need late night or early morning charters as well, you give them a call and they would, as much as possible, seek to accommodate you. That's the good folks there at Islander Water Sports and the On the Rocks restaurant. While you're waiting for the boat, you can always go and have yourself a nice drink, look out on the ocean, enjoy the sunset, and or you can have yourself a nice meal or dinner on the rocks and just tell them that we sent you from here on Real Entertainment Network and on the Topiks right here on this platform. Also, Shabbos Organics, Imperial Rides, Taxi and Tours, and Classic Metalworks is also going to be sponsoring our program as well. And so we'll give you some more information about Classic Metalworks as we continue this evening's programming. So, Bankie, with all that housekeeping matters, I want to say good evening, welcome to this edition of The Topics.
Good evening, Yahsonnn, and good evening to our guest, Mr. Astaphan. Also, good evening to the listening audience who choose to listen to Real Entertainment Network. Another edition of The Topics this evening shows that you have that very interest of what goes on within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and you have the will to learn and also the will to listen and to add your piece respectfully and engage in the conversation. It's all about each one teach one, and as we age, we're still learning. So it's very important to have this type of shows because we all have a legacy and we all have a right to share it, and it's important people speak their truth and speak their legacy because no one can tell your story like you. And when you're alive, we should give each other our flowers because we all made our contribution. So it's important that these things happen, and when it's important, then you can even do a bibliography, write a book, and tell your story. Because but some does way more than others, and when those who are given that title, it's important that they give it a chance to represent themselves well and stuff like that. So just want to thank those who tuning into Real Entertainment Network each week from Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. We greatly appreciate you guys. You guys are the one who make this show possible. And want to say thanks for those when they meet me on the street, let me know they're listening. So greatly appreciate it. And the love is overwhelming. So thanks again for choosing Real Entertainment. And good evening to our guest, Mr. Astaphan. How are you doing, sir?
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. I'm going good so far.
All right.
Beautiful,
All right.
Beautiful.
So, folks, we welcome you once again to The Topics, the platform where we do not fear the hard conversations, where we challenge narratives, where we confront power, and where truth gets a microphone. Tonight is not just another episode. Tonight is one of those evenings where opinions will be tested, positions will be examined, and the national conscience may be well stirred. Because joining us is a man who has never been afraid to speak his mind, never been shy to challenge government institutions and even public comfort zones. A man admired by some, criticized by others, but ignored by none. He has served in politics, he has moved in public life, he has spoken on matters of governance, justice, national development, accountability, and the soul of this federation. Some call him controversial, some call him courageous, some call him a patriot. He calls himself a son of the soil, committed to the future of this nation. Tonight we welcome to The Topics G.A. Dwyer Astaphan. Tonight we will go deep. We will discuss the cannabis debate, protests, constitutional rights, whether citizens are being respected and restrained. We examine the growing concerns around the SSZ and proposed Destiny Project on Nevis. We'll break down the controversy surrounding the Frigate Bay saga and questions of land access, transparency, public trust, and Frigate Bay. We talk agriculture, food security, the famous Tabasco pepper sauce project, and now the newly revealed SKN Farms project. These are some of the real pathways to prosperity. Are these real pathways to prosperity or polished press releases? Tonight we ask the questions others avoid. So, wherever you are watching from, share the live, tag a friend, join the reasoning, because for the next 2 hours, the Topics is live, unfiltered, unapologetic, and fully engaged. I am Yahsonnn, your host, and I have with me my co-host Shabazz Bankie King and our special guest GA Dwyer Astaphan. Welcome to the platform. And Dwyer Astaphan, I'm going to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. You can go as far back as you want, even if you want to go to the school days where you grew up. A lot of people, I know a lot of people may know you, but there's a lot of people who are listening for the first time here on the platform. So we want to give you that opportunity to share that bit of information, sell yourself, and then we get into some of the topics for this evening. So welcome to the platform, welcome to the Topics.
Thank you. And again, thanks for having me. Earlier on, when you were referring to me, you said some people regard me as courageous. Some people also regard me as crazy. That's okay.
Crazy is good enough. Jesus was crazy too. Crazy is good.
I live my conscience.
Yes.
Okay, and
yes.
I do not abide by men. I try to abide by principles. So you can call me whatever you want. That's fine. I was born at the old Cunningham Hospital in Bastia. This is where the present Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College is located. On January the 27th, 1948, 78 years ago. My parents were Joseph Astaphan and Josephine Astaphan, both born in Sheer Lane Alley in Bastia. Their parents migrated from Lebanon and Palestine between the years 1910 and 1912. So about 126 years. My family goes back to St. Kitts. I went to school at the convent school. I completed high school at the age of 14. I also played music. I played saxophone in a band, the Will Richards Combo. I played First Division, which is now Premiership, football and cricket at the age of 14. I used to go to the gym to lift weights, and I had a wonderful boyhood growing up in this island, and from time to time in Nevis, where my father had a shop. Yes, you all don't know that.
No,
You look
that's
shocked.
news.
My father had a little shop. Okay.
Where was that located, if you could recall?
I'm trying to read the name of the street going on there by the courthouse, down towards the bay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, little shop. Okay. He didn't stay in it every day. He had a gentleman run it for him.
Prince William Street.
Prince William Street, correct. Until it was run down. And then that was the end of it. Okay. My parents were merchants. As I said, my mother's father did better in terms of business than my father's father. And so at the age of 14, my father, at the time they were living where the government headquarters is now, in Bastia, it was an old rundown building called the Waterloo. Prince William Street, correct. Until it was run down. And then that was the end. Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. So one Friday afternoon, things were very bad for his family. One Friday afternoon, he ran away from home and got himself a job on a merchant vessel, a ship that sailed between Halifax in eastern Canada and South America. And he sailed on that for 14 years until 1942. By that time, his parents had moved to Dominica. And during the middle of the war, World War II, the Germans, I might add that during World War I, when my father's and mother's parents were here, the British government, through the colonial office governing St. Kitts and Nevis, had a list of people, which included my grandparents, of Middle Eastern origin, who were not allowed to move from one part of the Federation, the island, to another without a pass, because they had come from a part of the world that was under Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, and they were regarded as enemies. So my grandparents needed passes to go from place to place. My mother's father particularly, I'll come back to my father in a minute. My mother's father used to go around the island selling, and it was not like now, you can't just go and come back in a few hours. So you'd have to overnight with people, and he overnighted with what we call ordinary folks, because he was an ordinary person, moving away from the Middle East to try to find a better life. They didn't know where they were going. They were just ignorant peasants with hope, running away from hopelessness. He used to come to Nevis as well. And he used to stay at the home of the grandmother of one of this federation's greatest sons, a man called William Ferdinand Dwyer, perhaps the greatest teacher in the history of St. Kitts, a young division.
Willie
Sorry?
Willie Dwyer. Willie Dwyer?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
So my grandfather used to stay at Willie's grandmother. So the connections were ground level connections. My grandfather and the people from that part of the world who were here were not accepted by the landed gentry. For example, in the early days, when my grandfather went around selling at the estates and so, he was not allowed to enter the front entrance. He had to go around the side with the workers. They used to describe people like him as what they call dirty white. Not white, but dirty white. Funnily enough, years later, when he became very successful in business, he loaned the big man in the sugar industry, a man called Arthur Davis, some money when Arthur Davis needed money. And my mother was very pissed off with him and said, well, these people don't like us, they don't like you. Why you lend him your money? He said, look, I don't like them either, you know. But business is business. And I could lend him money and I get back my money plus interest. And I have enough documents securing my loan to him. In fact, gentlemen, I have a copy of that same loan document, which I'm considering putting into my book, which I hope to release before the year is done. Now, to my father, my father, as I said, during the war, he had a brother who sailed on the same shipping line, whose boat was torpedoed twice. Now, in Dominica, my grandparents were living in Dominica at the time. And so when the boat made the rotation going into Dominica, my father's mother said, look, you haven't spent any time with us. Ask the captain if you could spend this rotation with us. He goes down south, he goes up to Canada and comes back. And when he gets back to Dominica, you rejoin the ship. So my father asked the captain, and the captain said yes. So he stayed in Dominica. But the next morning, the boat was sailing from Dominica to St. Lucia. And as it entered St. Lucia, Castries Harbor, it was torpedoed by a German submarine. And the torpedo struck exactly where his cabin was. And his cabin mate was killed. His cabin mate happened to be the father of the cricketer Garfield Sobers. My father immediately realized that he had had enough. He resigned from the ship and he came to St. Kitts and got married to my mother. And our family started there. So I went to Convent High School, did my O-levels at 14. My favorite subjects in school were maths and recess. I love recess a lot. And maths was fun to me. Maths was fun because if you apply the method, if you apply the process that you are taught and you apply it correctly, you will get 100 all the time. And a female teacher turned me on to that. And so I was very good in math and very good in recess. So I used to play in a band called the Will Richards Combo. Then I went off to university at the age of 16, graduated with a BA in psychology at the age of 20. Came back home, got admitted to University of Toronto Dental School. But it didn't take me long to realize that that was not for me. So I came back home, got a job teaching, and then in 1970, I went off to England to study law. Came back in 73, opened my practice in 74, got involved, as I had been before, in sports and community activities, music, got involved in all of those things. Managed club cricket, managed club football, coached the national cricket team, coached the national football team, became the president of the St. Kitts Cricket Association, became the president of the Leewards Cricket Association, and became a member of the West Indies Cricket Board. I took those stints for 4 years each because my philosophy is you go into bat, you score your runs, and you get out. I don't believe in like sticking around in things for too long, except working to make a living, which I've been doing since I'm a small boy. Because in my father's shop, we had to do all the work. We have the snout and the red herring and the flour, go to the warehouse, and flour and everything like that, which was a great foundation for us because it taught us values. And my father told us, you'll get a house, a roof over your head, a bed, food, and love, but it's not free. And he reminded us, I had to leave, run away from home when I was 14 to help save my family. And you are not going to just come in here and eat and sleep and grow and get fat and don't understand that this takes work. So that to me gave me my first bachelor's degree, BSc. But the B is for behind, the S is for shop, and the C is for counter, behind shop counter. And I learned a lot in life because most of my father's customers, not the white people, not the bourgeois, not these people, cane cutters, fishermen, porters, carpenters, that kind of thing. And I learned a lot about life from in there because a lot of these folks could really not afford to keep their families, especially in an economy which was a seasonal economy. Sugar, when crop is off, it's hard times. And people's bills used to go up, the families used to grow. And many account, I see my father write them off. I remember a time a man came with his book, never forget his name, and he wanted some groceries. And I took the book to my father and he said, he can't get all of these, Dwyer. Look at how much he owes. So I went back to tell the customer, Daddy said, I can't give you everything, so choose what you can. The man started to cry. I went back to Daddy. I said, Daddy, look, Mr. Abbott. Tears come to my father. He said, give him what he wants, you hear? My father was a terrible businessman, but he was a man of love and soul. And to me, that gives me more pride and legacy than if he was richer than Bill Gates, because money doesn't matter to me unless it enhances the human condition. And I learned a lot. And this, I think, is why it's poor people's money send me university, you know. As I said, rich people, for the most part, wouldn't go in my father's shop. It's poor people's money sent me to university. And this is why I feel, without any obsessiveness or neurosis about it, I feel a spiritual and moral connection and obligation to serving this country however I can, in the hope that my little contribution can, in a little way, elevate, empower, and enhance our people. Because our country floats or sinks on our people. So when I came back in the 80s, after things were going rough for me when I came back from law school. Went up to Canada for 5 years, came back in 1980. And as I said, got involved in all of the sports. Managed in the 1970s, I managed a boxer who just died here, fighting hunks, who was a great boxer, a great citizen of this country, who I hope even posthumously get some memorialization by having something named after him. We don't honor our people enough. We honor the baseball and the basketball and the performers and people out there, but we don't honor our own. So I learn a lot from with old people, because in those days, almost every night, old people with you, telling you stories about their civilization, their culture, and so that was our TV. And many a night I'd fall asleep on the kitchen floor, and my father would have to carry me in the bed, because listening to old people talk, there's nothing quite as comforting as that, in the night. You come from the park, you're dirty, you bathe, you get some food, you brush your teeth, and you sit down in the kitchen or some of the rooms, and some old people sit down with you, an old lady, an old man, and they kind of talk to us, and you go to sleep. I mean, it was so different from now. And so I was involved in all of these things. I managed a band in the late 1960s, let me go back, a string band, a combo called Silver Rhythm Combo. And I took them to Jamaica in 1969 to cut an album. It was the first album ever made by a band from the Eastern Caribbean, 1969. So I was very heavily involved in music. And I think this explains my efforts, along with other people's efforts, to bring about the music festival in 1996. This was part of my vision. Also, not only me, because other people have had music festival, but my vision was and still is to establish St. Kitts and Nevis as a global center for the entertainment industry. You see, in tourism, bad weather and civil commotion could spoil the tourist season. But the thing with the entertainment industry is, whether you're happy or you're sad, whether you're celebrating or you're mourning, music and any form of the arts, movies, painting, sculpture, whatever, is always relevant. You could find a piece of art in any form to suit any mood or situation in life. And it's a massive industry. And I became serious about it as a business, having read a book about the Jamaican music industry in the 1980s. And the writer said that I forget the year, in the 1980s, the Jamaican industry had generated over £1 billion in business, and not even 10% went into the Jamaican economy. So then later on, I got into politics, competed for the Labour Party, lost the first election, although I don't like to say I lost. I prefer to say I placed second. And came back in 95 because the country was unsettled. We were fortunate to be successful in 95. Back in 2000, 2004, then I left the cabinet in 2008 because I did not like the way things were going. And being the person I am, I put up with things for a while. And then when I reached that point, I'm gone. But I'm not silent. I'm gone. And so I've been social activist and advocate for many years. And so I've just grown old doing all of these things. And that's it in a nutshell. I was married, divorced, have a child, yeah? Sorry? Divorced.
No, go ahead.
Child. I have grandchild, one biological, one adopted, both of whom I love. One is 4, the other one is 9. They keep me active. They stress the hell out of me, but I love them more and more every day. I prefer to be with
Beautiful.
them than with anybody else.
Oh, nice. Nice.
I walk. I have a lot of medical conditions, but I walk every day, and well, not nearly every day, 2-3 miles. Generally, I eat smartly, but sometimes I don't, and I have to get back on track because you are what you eat, and you dig your grave with your teeth. So, I love music. I love the arts. I love people. I like engaging young people, and I love to see things done on a principled foundation.
Before Yahsonnn get into the questioning, let me just get in my question one time. I somehow feel like you're a Rastaman, you know, because you always want all the ITEL shop on them. How you get like us so? Every time I say you want all
Well,
the ITEL shop up McKnight, up here and there. That's what I can
yeah.
say
Well,
about your trademark.
interesting you said that, Bankie. When
Yes.
I became the president of the Leeward Island Cricket Association, and before I became the president, there was a rule that prohibited certain headwear in Leeward Island cricket competition. The objective of that rule was to ban Rastafarians from playing cricket in the Leeward Island tournament. That's the first rule that we got rid of when I became the president, because
Beautiful.
I don't believe in that foolishness. Um, I've had a lot of very close friends from the Rastafari community, people I grew up, and I have some in Jamaica. I remember on a trip to Jamaica some years ago. You guys know, I heard of a fella called Fatis Burrell. Fatis was an
No.
impresario manager, so he used to manage Sizzle and these guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Fatis took me around, and we had some nice conversations with some of the elders there. And maybe we come to the point of cannabis. I could bring that up. But the impression that I'd been given before ever going to Jamaica in 1969 was that Rastafari people just smoke weed all day and don't know nothing. When I land on the docks at Hanover Street in Jamaica, Kingston, the first thing I see is a Rastaman painting. Then we come off the dock and I said, this ain't what they tell us. And I just happened to find, I'm not trying to be condescending, gentlemen. I am not that kind of person. I tell you how I feel. I just find the way Rastafari live with each other and with other people, dignified, tolerant, and clean. And some doctors have told me, if you look at prostate cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, and all of these things, nobody performs better than Rastas. So the way you eat, your levity philosophies is a lifestyle. It's, for me, it is something for people to emulate. Because, we have people who wear locks, but they're Rastas. And there are people who don't wear locks, share and respect the philosophy. For me, it is a solid philosophy that I welcome for our young people to live a certain lifestyle, eat healthy. You see, we all deal with the hardest topic. But you have the equanimity and the composure and the dignity to deal with them. Where were some other interviewers? Next thing you know, is a war breakout and baby, may want to go by you. It's, the class that you guys exude, and I'm not saying this because I'm here. You all know me well
Right.
enough.
We
If
appreciate
more
it.
emulated that, all this wasting of money and life wouldn't be taking place in the world. We wouldn't be destroying the planet.
Very true.
How foolish can a race be, the human race, to destroy the only thing that sustains our lives? The very thing that the Rastas preach against. Preserve, love, live in harmony. I love it. I really do. I really do. That's
Greatly
all I could say.
appreciated. Yes. Yahsonnn?
Thank you. And I must say, you said you gave a little introduction, but I think basically you would have given us a lot of information. I think
Yes,
personally,
beautiful.
I
Yes.
have gleaned a lot, and that is why one of the things that like we try to give our guests that opportunity to share their own story, because I could read as much and read up as much about you, but there's nothing going to be like you telling us about Dwyer Astaphan and who Dwyer Astaphan is and what, you know, causes Dwyer Astaphan to be the way he is today. I mean, I didn't even know actually that both of your parents were born on syndicates.
In Shirley and
I
Ali.
thought, right. And so, you spoke to the fact that, how they grew up, the fact that you would have had Nevis connection, they spent time in Nevis. I mean, they had business in Nevis, which we didn't know of. So I
You remember a
am
man named
very
Pappy
much,
France? You're all old enough to
yes,
know Pappy France?
Of course.
My
yes.
Well,
father and
I
Pappy
hear
France
about
were
him, but we never met him.
like two peas in a
But
party at the
yes,
hotel on the front there by the bay front. We used to go and stay there
yes.
all the time.
Okay.
Mm,
All they weren't born
nice.
yet.
No. We
No, no, no.
probably wasn't
No,
in
it
the
was no
target.
It's nobody's
Probably
fault.
wasn't in the target.
That's just it. It's
Yes.
nobody's fault.
Mr. Astaphan. So okay, so you you're a man known for many opinions, right? People know you for many of your opinions. But who
Yes.
is Dwyer Astaphan today?
Just a 78-year-old man who trying to live to a certain level of love and honor and dignity and serving the energy of goodness, the forces of goodness, by trying to lift up whoever I can lift up. Because in lifting others, I'm lifting me too. And I want a better future. You see that little cute grandchild here a while ago?
Hmm.
And her
Hmm.
mommy? It is those that I want to have a better time than me. Just like my father and mother wanted for us. My mother wanted to be a doctor, very bright. You know what her father tell her? You're a woman, you want to be a doctor? Not you go in the shop, go sell snout and saltfish. She said, yeah, none of my children won't get stopped from going to study now. All of our children went to university. Not that that is any particular accomplishment,
Right,
okay?
right.
But the point is, she made sure that her children got opportunities that weren't available to her.
To her. Yes.
So that's me. I want make it better. And I engage young people a lot. A lot. That's the future.
So do you still have political ambitions, or you just now focus strictly on
Ambition?
national community?
I never had Yahsonnn, I never had political ambition.
No?
I always supported the philosophy of the labor movement for the good that we can do. To elevate the small man in every way. Not to take away from who has, but to pave the way for who hasn't, so that he or she can achieve. Okay? I've always supported the labor movement, the Labor Party. I was very close to Mr. Bradshaw. Mr. Bradshaw was married to my aunt. So sometime when he would travel, he'd come and tell me, go stay by your aunt till I come back. He'd bring books for me. Always books. The first book he ever gave me was the autobiography of Kwame Nkrumah. He used to give me books. And you know something? When I was introduced to the Labour Party as their candidate, and I'll tell you how that happened quickly. I was busy the day, had no time to prepare a speech. And so went to Massey's house, little procedure, little ceremony and so. My turn came to speak. And I said to myself, but me, I know what to say. May I write no speech? And as I stood up, I felt inspired. And I felt inspired by the spirit of Mr. Bradshaw. And I spoke. And I tell you, I never read a speech in politics. Never in parliament, nowhere. I know my subject matter. I bounce the energy off who there, whether they're talking or they're in the audience. I make me 2-3 points and I go on. So in 1992, Dr. Douglas came to my office and said the party would like me to be the candidate for them in Central Bastille. I said, me? He said, yeah. I said, no. Maybe they send it to my brother, who was a doctor, Jamie. His office around the corner. He said, no, it's you sent me for. I said, no, I'm not. I said, look, I'm political. I used to write in the Labour Spokesman as a youngster. Close to Mr. Bradshaw. I sleep in his bed. When he have dignitaries coming, we go up there. He was a gardener. He loved gardening and plants and nature. You guys would have been fascinated by him. He was a deep man, and a visionary. Unfortunately, men like that are few and far between. And so I told Dr. Douglas, he said, think about it and come on. He said, by the way, why you don't want to be a candidate? I said, I'm not a politician. He said, why you say so? I said, Dr. Douglas, I am not a bullshitter. I don't like bullshit. I'm a straight shooter. He said, that's why we want you. Later on, I got the impression, I came to the conclusion, many years later, that he was actually bullshitting me. He wanted to entice me into... No problem. So I prayed about it. I spoke to some elders about it, namely Mr. Fitzroy Bryant, Mr. Limore, Mr. St. John Payne, Dr. Sebastian, and some others. And after 3 months or so, I said, okay. Spoke to, of course, my family, my then wife. I said, okay. But if I run and I'm successful, I'm leaving after 2 terms. Fine. So we ran in 93. I had a year to prepare. Dr. Simmons, who was then the sitting prime minister, defeated me by 32 votes. So I realized from that point that he did not even have full command of his constituency, far less the country. So I knew that next time he would be in trouble, barring some kind of miracle for him. Went back in 95, we won. Went back in 2001. Went back in 2004, won. Every time by an increasing margin. And then, as I said, I had enough of what was going on, and I left the cabinet in 2008, remained in Parliament until 2010 election, pulled out, and then I started advocating for the removal of Dr. Douglas because I had tried it from the inside and was not successful. I figured I had to try from the outside. Okay? I was in the wilderness by myself. At the time, Pam wasn't saying anything, really. And some people used to regard me as the voice of the opposition. I wasn't. I was just speaking truth to power. And as much as some people didn't like me, some of them don't even talk to me still, which is okay. I used to tell people, look, you don't have to like me, that's okay. You don't even have to listen to me. But if you're going to criticize what I'm saying, at least understand what I'm saying. And if I'm saying anything that is factually incorrect, please correct me. Nobody correcting me. I'm not saying I'm right in every case, because while I'm outspoken, I'm also humble. I prefer to be right than wrong. So if Yahsonnn show me something wrong I'm glad because now I'll get it right. I had a lot of portfolios at tourism, culture and environment. In tourism, Marriott, Scenic Railway, Music Festival, International Triathlon, beginning of American Airlines flights. We got Brimstone Hill recognized as a World Heritage Site. We did a survey of heritage sites in the country. The environmental cleanup. We did a lot of stuff. And in those first 5 years, we had 4 hurricanes, a flood, and the Montserrat volcano. Second term, I did tourism, commerce, and some other things. I was the minister when we transformed the telecommunications. because cable and wireless had a monopoly. And then I had national security, which Dr. Douglas said he had no money for. So I came up with an idea to raise money to build out the national security, but I got no support from them. I realized after a while, you're hitting your head against a wall. So I just walked away. I have no regrets because I had no ambitions, as Yahsonnn earlier suggests, no political ambition. And even if I did, not at the age of 17, well, why am I going to politics? I'm in politics already. I'm in the people's business. Listen, let me tell you, they only have 11 seats in the parliament here, you know. And we in this country need to understand that as long as we allow 11 people to overpower 50,000 of us, we ain't gonna get it right. We have the power. That's all for now.
All right. So I hear that, and I am glad that you would have quoted me and would have made it clear in the sense of you not having any political ambitions as per se, but you were called or you were sought after and was asked to take the seat, so to speak, or to represent the people. Now, you, as you mentioned, has been and is still a very vocal individual, not afraid to speak or not afraid to speak your mind, and as you said, not afraid to speak truth to power. Why do you believe so many citizens are afraid to speak out openly in St. Kitts and Nevis like you do?
Well, I'll come back to St. Kitts and Nevis. Let's go to America. We have 340 million people. Why are so many people afraid to speak out? Big television networks. If Donald Trump or one of his people send a message to them and say, look, I don't like how Bankie going on the media, get rid of him. And big businesses want opportunity. They don't want to be victimized. So they bite their tongue and get rid of their spines. Well, I don't have a tongue to bite, and I don't care about the spine. In St. Kitts and Nevis, a lot of people are afraid to speak out because of the consequences which they think they may face. I mean, look at radio stations. You say you all talk the hard topics. A lot of radio stations will edit out things that should go into the news or certain comments and so forth because they don't want to offend the business community. And so you may do research as a journalist on a particular activity in the business community in St. Kitts, and the results of your may indicate certain businesses are engaged in some nefarious and hurting consumers. But the radio station might not play that because they want the sponsorship. Similarly, a lot of them want sponsorship from the government of the day. So their sting is diluted. They are detesticulated. And I don't have anything to lose. I never did, even when I was young, because I don't have that part of the brain fully developed to have me afraid to say and act. I'll tell you why. I was asked this many years ago. Aren't you afraid of the consequences of what you're doing? I said, maybe, but not as afraid as I would be of the consequences of not saying anything. Silence is a death sentence. I'm not a hero, you know. I'm playing hero. I'm just telling you how I am. I'm going to tell you. I'm not going to keep water in my mouth. I said, brother, I love you, but don't do that. It's not right. And I'm telling you so because I love you. If you get in a heat and say, me a long time, you don't like me now, like a child, I can do. I can't think for you. That's how we are.
Earlier you spoke about.
If you go ahead.
So earlier you spoke about your parents and the way how they started their business as merchants and stuff like that. And it boiled down to the economy and the regular people, the cane cutters. And up to this week, I was speaking to a gentleman who know your family well, and the story you all had and stuff like that, and spoke very fondly of how your family and everybody just live good, and you're part of the team. And he was genuine with it, and I was just in awe how he's speaking about you and your family, your mom and dad, like so. 'Cause he's in his 70s, like your age also, so he know you personally. So my thing is right now, to government been speaking about Bastia high school, been speaking about hospital, all this different stuff. Even over here in Nevis, the same way. So the economy itself, why these things are happening when so much money is being and all these investors coming in and deal with the CBI and everything is CBI, and yet the regular people is not, then they still can't enjoy a regular wage and just have a vacation. Why these things are still happening when it comes to our resources?
Well, okay. What I'm going to say should not be interpreted as making excuses for anybody. But I think to get context, sometimes we need background. The CBI started running into trouble as long as 12 years ago, when shady characters were getting passports. Some of them were getting diplomatic passports, bringing the country into disrepute. People who should not have gotten. Then later on, they started selling passports, and they don't like me to use the term selling passports, but that's what they were doing. Selling passports below the legal price. For example, with regard to the prison, they had an option called the alternative investment option. The minimum investment for that was 175,000 US dollars. And the Harris government gave out 4,400 files for that project, which could generate 962 million US dollars, but only generated about 500 million. However, the cost of the project was not over 75 million. So why did I get so many files? The government should have been collecting the bulk of that 962 million, give the developer enough money to build the prison and for them to make a fair profit. Between Harris and Douglas, it is my estimation that the people of the Federation were deprived of over $8 billion with a B. Had that money been available, Bankie and Yahsonnn, we would have had no needs in terms of our basic infrastructure. Hospitals, schools, water, energy, other infrastructure, roads, and I'm talking about both islands. $8 billion,
Yes.
you know. Now,
Agreed.
not only that, food safety, you know, you all are food producers, making sure they get proper water, the farmers are supported. You could put a $50 million fund in there for farmers, fishers, and small businesses, and let them, you borrow from the fund, you pay back at 2% interest. Charge you interest just to keep you on your toes, but not to put you on your face. The problem is that by the time Dr. Drew come into power, the CBI turned sour, and the monies that should have come in didn't. So the programs could not be carried. Can you imagine? Not even 8 billion. Imagine $3 billion spinning through the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. This would be like the Singapore of the West. And I like to refer to Singapore because Singapore is one of the wealthiest and best run countries in the world. You know how big Singapore is? Singapore is the size of St. Lucia. Taiwan is a third of the size of Cuba. So the point is, you don't have to be big to be strong. You have to be smart. But smart is not enough. You have to be transparent and you have to love the people. And you have to love the people more than you love anything else, even yourself. And that did not take place. So, as I said at the beginning, I'm not making any excuse. And this government has made a lot of mistakes. But the money was not there to carry out these vitally necessary projects.
All right.
That's the best on that.
Thank you very much. And you have brought us to the point where we will take a short break. And so, Mr. Astaphan, you get a chance to maybe grab on some water or something. We're going to take a break and we're going to hear from our sponsors, Islander Water Sports and On the Rocks, Shabazz Organics, Imperial Rides, Taxi and Tours. And also, we will hear from Ras Naya with Classical Metal Works down there on Pennies, the only classical blacksmith that is still around in the Federation and functioning. So, people, we'll be back with you in just a minute. Stick and stay with us right here on Real Entertainment Network. And remember to go to our YouTube platform, subscribe, click on the notification bell. So in the meantime, while we take the break, go on over to the YouTube platform, subscribe, click on the notification bell. We'll be back in just a minute.
At Shabazz Organics, we believe real people deserve real food. So we're bringing you to Mansa's Last Stop, a farm where food barriers are removed and legacy is sustained. We believe there's power in picking, so we allow you to decide what leaves the farm and enters your kitchen organically.
Beat the summer heat, come and get your carambola, star fruit, make very nice drink. Come pick them yourself. All the trees them full of vitamin C, antioxidant, build up your immune system. Monster Last Stop, a whole shopping bag only $10. Half a shopping bag you pay $5. If you get $2, you must get some. Come get your carambola. Don't want to go to waste. Let's go, people.
When comfort, class, and reliability matter, choose the ride that delivers more. Imperial Rides Transportation Services, where every journey is treated like royalty, from airport transfers, private events, shopping trips, island tours, and executive travel. Imperial Rides moves you in style, clean, comfortable, on time, every time. Book your premium taxi or tour service today. Call or WhatsApp 869-665-8459 or email elandflavas@gmail.com. Imperial Rides Transportation Services. Your journey, our priority.
Yes, definitely, people. It's something for you to check out on the 1st of May, Friday, 1st of May. Go on and check out the Heritage Village that's over there at Hickman's. Go and check out the Ministry of Tourism Presents Heritage Live Open Day and the medical fundraiser in honor of June Queely. Yes, so people going out, food and entertainment, fun activities for everyone, special gifts and prizes, togetherness and community spirit. That's on Friday, May 1st, 2026, starting at 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. The Heritage Cafe will be reopening on that day as well. So for folks who are accustomed to getting the good food and the good juices and drinks and beverages down at the Heritage Cafe, go on down and check them out on that day, May 1st. Heritage Live Open Day and Medical Fundraiser. We look forward to seeing you on the 1st of May, Friday. Until then, we'll be back here on Real Entertainment Network with another edition of The Topics. Yes, Islander Water Sports. Definitely check them out if you want ferry services between St. Kitts and Nevis. go on over to the Oli Seawater Taxi Services area. Ask for the Islander Boat Charter Services. And also they do charters to the neighboring islands, Anguilla, St. Martin, St. Eustatius, Sabres and Barts. You can check them out if you want a late night charter. If you're in Nevis and you want to get over to St. Kitts, it could be 1 a.m., it could be 2 a.m. Give them a call and they will seek to facilitate you. Or vice versa, if you're coming from St. Kitts, you get to Reggae Beach and you need a boat, you call the Islander and they will definitely take care of all of your travel services between the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Just tell them that you heard about them here on Real Entertainment Network, and they'll have something special for you as well. And while you await the boat services, you can just take a 2-minute walk over to On the Rocks restaurant, where you can be enjoying some of their wonderful beverages while you overlook the fantastic ocean view that they have. You could be looking at the sunset or just a wonderful view of the Frigate Bay area on St. Kitts and the oceans, the boats moving to and fro from St. Kitts, and you could be having fresh seafood dishes or whatever culinary they have on the menu. So check them out there on the rocks right there at the Oli Seawater Taxi area, and be a part of On the Rocks and the Islander Seawater Water Sports Taxi Ventures. And support Dwight's book for stroke and aphasia awareness. We are urging you to support Dwight. Dwight would have been interviewed here with us on this platform. He would have suffered from an interesting ailment, aphasia, where he lost his memory from playing football, and he had a header. He and his other partner collided, and as a result, he would have lost his speech and a number of other things. And he is, sharing his story. He was able to come back and get back a good bit of his memory, and is doing his best to write about the story. And so, if there's any way you can help with Dwight's book, the information is here for the GoFundMe. You can support and let him know that you heard about this right here on Real Entertainment Network. And people, we're back. We're back live with another edition of the Topics here on Real Entertainment Network. And we have with us this evening our special guest, Dwyer Astaphan, who so far in the first half of the program would have shared a lot of information with us in terms of his background information, his political career, his business career. And we're going to get into some of the other questions and topics, but what we're going to do before we do that, Dwyer and Bankie, I'm going to get into some of the comments that are on the platform, because and in about maybe 15 minutes or so, we would open the lines for calls as well. So folks, if you're interested in calling in, the number would be 1-869-662-7196. That's 1-869-662-7196. So in about 15 to 20 minutes, we would open up the lines for calls. But in the meantime, Ruth Lynn Hill is saying she's with us and watching. Kevin Hanley is saying good night, guys. Good night, Dwyer. How are you guys? Have a great day. Cheech Warner saying he's around. Vilena Ali saying good evening all. Vilena Ali is saying, why don't he call out Mark Brantley for his wrong? Spencer Anthony Howell says, would love to hear your opinion on U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's visit. Do you think the current government will stay neutral, or they already sell out to the U.S.? Jetty Taylor says it's the same Astaphan when he came to Mark last election, says he doesn't know anything about Nevis politics, but then go bang him out on Gaston over in Antigua, and Gaston clapped back. Ruthlin Hill says, good night all. Let's go over to the YouTube platform. Over on the YouTube platform, we have C. Gaskell says, very happy to see Mr. Astaphan as guest on the platform. Yet another epic loading. Thank you, Yahsonnn, Bankie, and Dwyer. C. Gaskell says, there you go. My youngest son shares a birthday with Dwyer. Oliver Leibert says, hi, good night all. I am in the house. Donna 2 says, greetings to all from Atlanta. Pedro Gemot says, greetings, very interesting introduction. C. Gaskell says, I often wonder how things in the Caribbean would have looked if Rastafari was embraced in the 60s instead of stigmatized. Surely NCDs would be less and community would be more. Robin Latham says, good night to all, loving this conversation. Pedro Gemot says, is this the man that bailed the cat on the CBI program? C. Gaskell says, maybe you mean Philip Martin. Pedro Gemot says, I recall reading about an Astaphan and CBI in the New York case a few years ago. Mighty Servant says, a trend I have noticed is that every prime minister since independence would have had major issues with their deputy or vice versa. Kennedy and Powell, Douglas and Dwyer, Sam and Tim, Timothy and Mark, and others. Mighty Servant says, I hold the view that Dwyer had aspirations to be the leader and or have his views the dominant view in the administration. I think this was what attributed to him, one, unseating the then prime minister, and let me see if he did get to continue. He says, two, the obvious concession made by Douglas by handing over a critical portfolio that most Caribbean leaders hold onto, and that is national security. This shows the demand was made of the leader. Valentino Maverick says, yes, you manage. You ain't mention Youngsters Cricket Club. Okay. And so these are the comments so far. And Mr. Astaphan, I must inform you that if it's one thing on this program here, our viewers, they are usually very feisty, and they would have their comments, and we make it our business to ensure that their comments are a part of the discourse and a part of the conversation, because sometimes if we don't, we would be here maybe just talking to ourselves. And so it's the callers, it's the folks who make their comments and so on, who are a part of the discussion. So
yes, and let me just say, we continue to ask our guests and viewing audience to be respectful at all time. That's the only rule we have. And your comment will be read, and when you call them, also be respectful on your comments to the guest, because those are the ones who make the show along with your guys. Okay, if we don't have the guests, we can't have no show. So that's all we ask all of you. Respect each other's opinion, and we have a informative and educational show and engaging. That's all. Go ahead, Yahsonnn.
Yes, I was going to say, if Mr. Astaphan is opting to respond to anything that was read in the comments, he can at this point. If not, then I will just go into my other questions. So if there's anything from what I would have mentioned that you wanted to jump in and say anything on at this moment, you can take a minute or two to respond to that, Mr. Astaphan. And then if not, then I'll get into my other topic or question.
Let me say that I really appreciate the model that you guys use for this show to embrace
Thank you.
all kinds of views, friendly or not. It is not so much that my skin is thick, rather it's because my conscience is clear. Now, one of your comments there was that I was aspiring to be the leader, words to that effect. That is why I got the Ministry of National Security.
Yes.
Let me tell you this with brutal honesty. Dr. Douglas made a mess of the Ministry of National Security. Before him, Dr. Simmons had made a mess of national security. In 2004, when he brought in Ricky Skerritt to be Minister of Tourism, he offered me the Ministry of National Security. And we discussed it, and I accepted it. Now, of course, he's the Prime Minister. He decides what ministries are apportioned to his fellow candidates. I never lobby for any ministry. And anybody who is involved or was involved who says that is being untruthful. I could have been not even a candidate. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. But once given the opportunity, I went in there and I served. And let me say this, in addition, in all of my years as a minister, I never asked anybody who they voted for, anybody who came to me for help. And a number came from Nevis. Remember, I represent in Central Bastion. People come from all quarters of Nevis. Palm people, as I said, I know them to be who they are, some of them. I never ask because to me that's not important. It really is not. One of the earlier comments was that I said I want nothing to do with Nevis politics, but I went into Antigua politics, and Gaston Brown, I forget the verb that was used. In other words,
Yes, he clapped back. He responded. Yes, he responded to you. Yes.
He clapped back. I was involved in the Antigua election professionally because I do consultancies as well. I was involved in the election professionally. And I said certain things that yanked his chain because, like most bullies, his skin is thin. And then he said, what I do in Dublin in them politics, I must deal with it. And he used not a nice word in my own country. Okay? So those callers, they are entitled to their views, I respect them, but these are things that we can discuss at length, maybe at another time. And I could give you my number, and I'd be happy to speak with them. 662-4921. Any one of you wants to call me and speak with me, especially those who are in disagreement with things I say and do, because I will learn more from you than I learn from the others. Criticize.
Okay.
I forgot to tell you two things. Very quickly.
Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
One of the first letters I wrote as the Minister of Tourism in 1995 was to the President of the Medical Association, asking him and the Medical Association to lead the national discussion on cannabis. The president at the time was Dr. Ian Jacobs, who has died. He died. Up to now, I ain't get an answer because I realized where that could fit into the national development plan, both socially and economically. And I didn't want it to be led by the politicals. And in fact, Dr. Douglas accused me of wanting to glamorize cannabis. I approach it from a practical perspective. The second thing I want to tell you all is that when Mr. Bradshaw was a young trade unionist, my grandfather offered him a scholarship to go and study law. And he respectfully declined the offer and said he wanted to continue doing what he was doing. I'd forgotten to mention those two things earlier. But I welcome those callers. 662-4921. Let's talk.
Yes, and
Okay. Sorry, Bankie. Before you continue, before we get off of this topic, right? One of the callers mentioned, one of the person on the wall mentioned the fact that seemingly you refrain from or opt not to comment when it comes to Mr. Brantley, and there seems to be that notion that you don't criticize Mr. Brantley or you don't criticize the system, and they feel like you have a bias towards it. So since it was brought up and it was read, I would love to get your honest opinion or feedback on that so that you could clear the air on that issue and then we could move forward.
I don't have a horse in the race in Nevis politics. I do not have a horse in the race. Me and Mr. Brantley get along. And you know, many years ago, again, when I was the Minister of Tourism, Webo had me on. I was in St. Kitts. I couldn't go to Nevis tonight, so he had me on. And after the first segment, we had a break. And to start the second segment, he brought in Mr. Brantley, unknown to me. So I figured he's trying to ambush me with Mr. Brantley. But I ain't afraid because I ain't got a story to make up. Me afraid none of them. And Mr. Brantley, young, tiger, aggressive, and so forth, which I enjoyed. And it reached a point where Mr. Brantley, and I think these were the exact words he used, and I'm talking about 30 years ago. I could be wrong, so don't, not verbatim, but the essence of what he said was, I find myself in the uncomfortable position of agreeing with Minister Astaphan. Because people were saying, for example, back then, I am neglecting Nevis tourism. Listen, you know how many times I was about to travel and I called Malcolm and said, look, let me go here, let me go try this. But these are not things you advertise. The people out there have a certain perception. I have friends in all of the parties in Nevis, in the two parties. I do not have a horse in the race. But if I believe that Bankie could bat better than Yahsonnn, or the Yahsonnn might be my friend, I will say Bankie could bat better than Yahsonnn. But Yahsonnn could bowl better than it doesn't mean, people mix up reason with emotion and they end up with the wrong conclusions. But I don't personally seek to interfere in the political debate in Nevis with regard to the destiny thing. To me, that is a national issue, and not just a national issue for today, but a national issue into eternity. More than just a national issue. It's an issue of regional pride and honor. So I will speak about that.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna get into that. So what I'm gonna do, I am going to. Wait, sorry, Banky. I think you wanted to ask something. I'll come in. So go ahead, Banky.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna just I know there was one time it seemed like, and people hold it against Dwyer sometime, where I think there was one time as a minister he had it was years ago, but it was mind blowing to me. I said, what? That is strange. He had took some prisoners by the Marriott, and I know he have to have a reason for that. I mean, many people would not get a chance to inspire them. He have to have a positive reason behind of that, and I find that very unique. But there are those that use the negative part of it and don't realize these are life-changing events that can empower young people. That was special. How did that came about, and what was the event?
Okay.
And then we can get into the destiny stuff.
Okay, the 2004 election, Bankie, I was still the Minister of Tourism. But all I spoke about was youth gangs and violence. 2004, it was a major concern to me then. So Dr. Douglas made me the Minister of National Security. I went into all of the gang holes in St. Kitts. One night in a certain village, I was sure that gunshots would fire. I was scared as hell. But I didn't run away. Gunshots were not fired. One evening in another place when we went into a gang hole, when I came out, I everybody was smoking. I have asthma. I can't take things in my lungs. Not even barbecue smoke, no smoke. And I was higher than everybody else there. I felt good, but I was high. I went into all of the gang holes. My thinking was, I drink cannabis tea. I nearly always have it. I drink it. So there you go. Remember my life experience, as I pointed out to you. People behave the way they do for a reason. And rather than coming to conclusions off the top, you have to examine what is causing people to behave the way they do. And there are criminal justice interventions when you're dealing with crime, but there are also social interventions. What's the psychology of the individual? What's the psychology and social dynamic of his family, his socio-economic conditions? So I want to examine it in its fullness, and I came up with a game plan. One of these days we can discuss that, because I bounced it off the director of the FBI gang unit. And she said, that was wonderful. She said, I would back you 100% on this, or you have a better chance than me. When I get them young men and women in America, it's already too late, we just lock them up. And that only makes it worse. Her name was Deidre Butler, a black woman. She was the head of the FBI gang unit. I wanted to make a difference. I want to try to help transform these people's lives from a life of hopelessness to a life of hope, to a life of emptiness to a life of fullness, psychologically, spiritually, socially, and economically. And so I went full bore into it. At the same time, I told them, if you all mess around, you'll have to pay the price for it. So 1 year, Reverend Farrakhan came to St. Kitts, and I took him to the prison. I took Farrakhan to the prison, and I opened all the cells. And Farrakhan gave me all of his speeches. And I told him after, I said, this is the best speech you ever make in your life. And it was no preparation, eh? By the way, I'm a great supporter of Farrakhan. He also says what other people would like to say, but they're afraid to say it. And when Farrakhan finished speaking, before he was prison, one of the prisoners asked if they could come to the dinner. I said to all of them, Mr. Dorset, who is the prison superintendent, that is for him to decide. If he wants, then I could arrange for it to happen. Now bear in mind, gentlemen, and our listeners, the prison have a band, right? A musical band. They play all over the place in Christmas.
Yes.
Sometimes they go Nevis.
Yes.
Sometimes they go Nevis. So you're telling me it's
square.
okay for them to go in the square and play, or to go Sandy Point and play, but not to the Marriott to listen to things. As a matter of fact, anyway, we get there. So Mr. Dorset said, yeah, two of them could go. I said, well, you choose it too, I'll get the ticket. I took not only, they were brought and they left when I had to leave. I didn't know who he was going to bring, anything like that. But them, and along with 58 other young men on the margins of the law and society in St. Kitts. I paid for 60 of them, $12,000, because I wanted them to have an experience. But I also wanted the country's sensibilities to be jolted by the problem we were facing, which, if not taken on, was only going to get worse, which it did. I remember at the Marriott the night, and one of them made a presentation to Reverend Farrakhan, and a month later he was murdered. Not one of the guys who came from the prison, but a gangster. We had all of the gangs represented. I had a thing for them at the Bastia High School, all of them to come and meet and shake hands. I paid for all of that out of my pocket, because the group from this village don't want to travel with the group from that village. They pick their own, all of those things. So credit me or fault me, that's the approach I used. I got a lot of heat for it. In fact, a big shot at the dinner asked me, why you bring all them criminals here? I said, well, you're a bigger criminal than all of them put together. It's just that you're too big to go jail. And he didn't like it. So I am not an orthodox kind of person. I go outside of the box because you don't solve problems in the box. And it was a move to draw people's attention to a problem. We had programs in the schools. The business community largely were not supportive because they said them is criminals, lock them up. Even in the government, lock them up, throw away the key. That was not my approach. So that's what happened, Bankie.
I appreciate that. I mean, and for me, I took that as something inspiring as a young person when that happened. I'm still young, but when that's almost nearly like 20 plus years ago, 20 years before. It's been a long time, but it was very inspiring. So I know there have to be a very positive reason why you did that. So that's why I'm glad I get the opportunity to ask you. Yes.
We got no support from the society, no support from my cabinet, no support from the cabinet. Conda, maybe the only one. The rest of them, no support, no support. Just criticism.
Well, I know it's the lasting lasting impression on those young gentlemen that went there, and it's something they can always remember. Sometimes you don't know the small things, and it's not the money issue. You understand? And you said you did it out of your pocket and stuff like that is commendable. So I'm glad you happened to put that out there so everyone who listening can hear. It's a wonderful thing that you have done. Yahsonnn, you can get into the destiny.
Before you do that, next time we speak, I want to share with you all the programs I had to rehabilitate the young people. The programs.
Okay. No problem.
Well, it sounds as if we're definitely going to have to bring you back for maybe a part 3 and so on. So we're going to get into the destiny, but before I do that, Bankie, Mr. Astaphan, I know you said earlier that you studied law. Are you still practicing law today?
I practice law. Okay. I don't do litigation, anything like that. I do a very narrow area, office work, real estate, immigration, business law. I do consultations. As I told you, I did a consultation at the last election, in election Antigua. I give opinions to people, a bunch of different things. I do real estate as well, but office work.
Okay. So, question. You have spoken strongly on justice issues. What is your honest view on the state's handling of the cannabis reform? I think it's a Nevis handling of the cannabis reform.
Too sluggish. Too sluggish. I'm hearing talks about the linking of banks which accept money from cannabis transactions. Well, the government of California collects $11 billion a year in tax. Antigua has 2 dispensaries in St. John's. I am an advocate for the use of cannabis in a controlled way. Not just anybody use it as they like. I don't believe that. As a matter of fact, on one of my trips to Jamaica, a Rasta elder asked me a question. He says, a lot of young people in St. Kitts smoke? I said, yes. He said, they smoke a lot? I said, yes. They smoke every day? I said, yes. Not all of them, but a lot. He said, tell them for me that cannabis, he said, the herb, is a sacrament. He said, what church you go? I tell him, Catholic. He said, they give you wine? I said, yeah. He said, did they tell you in the church to drink wine all day, every day? I said, no, it's a sacrament. He said, exactly. Tell them youth man in St. Kitts, cannabis is a sacrament for us. Do not play us if you ain't gonna be like us. So that reinforced. Yeah.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask you, since you're on the topic of Rastafari, do you believe that the rights of Rastafari people have been fully respected here in St. Kitts and Nevis?
No, and that's another thing, you know. There was a fellow called Teacher Benji who was murdered. Teacher Benji was working under the Simmons government and them. And he went to Anguilla for a weekend. And when he came back the Monday, they fired him. couldn't get a job. We hired Benji in the environment department. We had Tamboro Kitwana in the culture department. Tamboro father and my father grew up together, and Tamboro and I grew up together like brothers. So he have luck, so he ain't supposed to work. He had a program on the banyan tree, one of the most legacy and popular program. That's this discrimination is sick, is like cancer, especially discriminating against people who live a belief that is wholesome. No man, that's suicidal. That's stupidness. No, governments have not respected the Rastafari civilization, if you want to call it that, as they should. No. Simple answer.
Great. So what reforms would you implement immediately regarding the cannabis policy?
Well, the reforms have to be guided by, in my opinion, health and safety thing. I don't want people drinking, using this stuff and driving. I don't think people should be just like cigarette. I don't tolerate no smoking around me now. Anybody who want to come in my house cannot smoke. Nothing could smoke in my house. So I'm concerned about the health, the age use, how it is used in public and that sort of thing. The thing with the 5 plants, and so I know that is intended to put some controls in place. But I believe that have a lot of loopholes in that. The movement with the travel, the license, and all of these things, I understand, but if you make it too tight, it's going to be like no changes were ever made. And to me, this has taken too long. As I said, I wrote Dr. Jacobs 31 years ago about it. So in short, I don't want to go through the whole thing because I'm not fresh on the act. But if there was a collective will, a political will, to regularize this matter, in my opinion, long time, it would have happened. As I said, Dr. Douglas said, I trying to glamorize it. And Dr. Harris in the early days said, not on his watch, not on his watch. So all them time when people go in jail and losing their freedom and can't support the children, those things should never have happened. Bankie should never have been arrested, my opinion. Neither Nubian, not for that. You're going to send double messages to people. And this is an upstanding man. Bankie is one of the upstanding people in this country. Decent, elegant, dignified man. An exemplar for young people.
Appreciate
and I'm
it.
not saying that
Thank
because
you.
it's there. It's just true. We need heroes. And we're locking up our heroes. Mixed messages.
You know, it is quite interesting that you mentioned that, and some of the things that you mentioned in relation to public safety and health and so on. Interestingly enough, when you go back to the Sankofa Sankofa Maccabees versus the police commissioner case, the defendants in those cases would have brought some of those arguments. And even though those arguments were brought forward, the judge was able to say to, Judge Ventos would have been able to say to them that they did not have a convincing enough argument that would allow him to infringe upon the claimant's constitutional rights, because what happened in the case is that it was discovered that the claimant was very successful in arguing for his constitutional rights based on the Constitution. And he in the end would have highlighted the fact that it doesn't matter what drug act or international narcotics act and or whatever other act that you want to adhere to, none of these things supersede the Constitution of St. Kitts and Nevis. And I'm asking you these things, and I'm looking at this because you're a legal mind, and that is why I'm asking these things and presenting these things to you. Because one of the things I've discovered, which you kind of alluded to just a moment ago, is when it comes to the Constitution, because that was identified that Rastafari had constitutional rights, the fact that they recognized cannabis as a sacrament also added another level to the game. Now, they claim that when it comes to the Constitution, if there's any thing that you're going to do in terms of infringing upon the Constitution, they must use what is deemed in the legal terms as the least restrictive means. And what you would have highlighted is in relation to what they would have done in terms of seeking to restrict, they seemingly make it as if they didn't do anything much. And so, which means here is the case highlighted the fact that you were infringing upon the rights of the Constitution. You were asked to amend the Job Act and or whatever other things that are infringing upon the rights. But the least means were not used. And so that is something that I guess we could discuss a bit further, but I know we don't have a lot of time, and so we're going to move on to some other topics. But yes, definitely, that is something that, I argue when you talk about religion, the preacher man can go and buy 200 cases of wine if he wants to stockpile 200 cases of wine in his house. Nobody's telling him that he has intent to supply. Nobody tell him how much. Nobody tell him how much wine to use, and even though you say they don't use it all day, no limit is placed on that. So why is it that you want to do that when it comes to Rastafari, when all religions should be given, their freedoms? And so these are some of the things that I guess we probably might have to go back and have some constitutional redress being done in those regards. But now to
this would be a great topic. Yahsonnn, very quickly.
Yeah.
This would be a great topic for you and Bankie maybe to invite the Bar Association to examine and have maybe one public session in the media, have a live thing on the platforms and so, and let them have a moot on it.
Definitely can reach out to them.
Because more work needs to be done. We still struggling, and other countries way ahead of us. And not only that, it's a business too, I mean, I have advocated for local facilities on Port Zante. We have nearly 1 million cruise passengers coming here every year. Cannabis oils, cannabis this, cannabis this. Let them visit cannabis farms where they could eat some nice ital, experience some cannabis in different product forms and so. Put some money in the country. We should have been there already. And there is foot dragging. I mean, I just feel like that is the case. And nobody has persuaded me otherwise. A lot of money being lost to this country because of that. And it's not just about money, but it's a business.
Well, Mr. Astaphan, that is one thing I can say that we are in total agreement with. The fact that there's a lot of foot dragging where this topic is concerned or this issue is concerned. And it is a good segue into what we're going to go into next, because you could see the foot dragging in the sense of cannabis, because this cannabis case with Sankofa was back in 2019. And see where we are in 2026, and still regulations are not fully in place where some of the issues in cannabis is concerned. But here is it now, we have the SSZ. And look at how they quickly went into the house in less than a month and sought out this SSZ so that they could facilitate this destiny proposal that was looming around, because it had to be looming around, because no sooner than the SSZ Act was established, here comes a project for SSZ venture in the form of the Destiny Project. So while I get into that, what is your position on the SSZ? And you can also then give your position on the proposed Destiny Project for Nevis as well.
Well, I have publicly expressed my views on the act itself. And I thought the act had a lot of weaknesses in it. There are people who spoke on behalf of the federal government who had a different view, and some other people who not only had a different view, but sought to diminish, belittle, and ridicule me for holding the view that I have. When I am considering matters like this, I don't restrict the process to my own understanding. I consult people. With regard to this SSC, just the act alone, not even the destiny, the act, I consulted 5 King's Council. Not one, 5. And all of them agreed with me that the act is defective. Then they came to the community and the bar association, so recommend amendments and so. Okay. Defective in a lot of ways. And I pointed them out in successive commentaries. I don't know if you all heard them. Successive commentaries. Did you, Bankie? Okay. I'm seeing him not, but I'm not hearing him. Okay.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah, I mean, too many loopholes.
In the interest of time, and I guess maybe for clarity as well, maybe if you could give some bulletproof points in terms of some of the issues that you probably would have addressed in relation to the SSZ that you think needed addressing. Bulletproof. You don't have
The
to
top
go
three,
in.
like the top. It could be the top three.
Well,
Yeah.
I run out of it because I'm not going to remember all right now. I didn't focus on this.
Yes. Yes.
The matter of law and legal enforcement. Where does which law apply? Does the law of the zone supersede the law of the land? The constitutional powers of the police, our courts, the jurisdictional authority of our courts, the appellate system, who can appeal from their courts, our citizens' rights, getting into the zones, the possibility, the probability, because where the door is open, people can walk through. People bringing in for the zone and they're squeezing through the fence and coming to the general economy. Duty-free stuff coming to the general economy, competing with other businesses who can't get duty-free stuff. Total chaos. Undermining of the economy. Undermining of the authority of the government. Undermining of the constitutional powers of the government. The jurisdictional powers of our courts. Too many questions. And those are just a few. Those are just a few. Dangerous. They're not going to like to hear that, but it is what it is. And then, who you think they're going to bring into the cheap work? You think they're going to penny visions, them kind of money? They're going to bring in people from Bangladesh, like in Dubai. Dubai and those places have an underculture of slavery, where they're bringing people from Bangladesh and so, and put them in very humble housing, like ants in an ant's nest. Okay, nothing elegant about it. They do the work for cheap. No, man, this is the law is weak. I've not seen any changes yet. I hear changes are on the way. And the project is just outrageous, not acceptable. Not acceptable. 3 square miles of Nevis?
Okay, so you see it as a visionary development or a risky overreach?
Definitely not visionary. And risky overreach would be a mild way to describe it. Crazy overreach. Insane. Okay? Treacherously crazy. A betrayal of the national patrimony. Now listen, here's another problem, All of them gonna get citizenship, right? And the children gonna get citizenship. And the spouses gonna get citizenship. And they're gonna vote you out and they can control you. And even if they can't vote, because
But Mr. Astaphan, hold on. I thought I hear the Premier said that they are going to carve out something that these people are not allowed to vote. You're legal
when you're
mind,
going to
he's a legal mind.
you're going to do that after the agreement is signed? Because once the agreement is signed, if the government and the NIA do not deliver, Johnson will sue them for billions of dollars, like he has done in Belize. You can't wait till after the horse bolt to pull in the gate. This is very dangerous. Very dangerous. And even if they can't vote, they have enough money to control the politics of the country. You can't allow that to happen. It's too much power against the common interests of divisions and petitions.
So as you said just now, they have so much money. So why they can't do the project out of their pocket? Why they have they need 10,000 shares?
Brother man, who tell you they have the money out of their pocket? They tell you so?
Well, they say they're
Have we
well,
seen
they
the
say
due
they're
diligence on
billionaires.
them?
Everybody keep
Oh
yeah.
yeah? That's what they say. Now wait a minute.
Yeah,
You see, and this thing is just, it's so, it's like something choked me in my neck with this. It's this,
Take
it's
your time. Take
bothering
your
me.
time. Take your time.
It's bothering
Take your
me.
time. Take your time.
You are going to give divisions $100 a month until you start to make a profit. You're going to give the government X amount of money after you start making a profit. Who's going to dictate whether you ever make a profit? Because you could run a
Good point.
business and pay your girlfriend in Tortola and pay Dwyer under the table in Cayman Islands. And every year you're losing money, but you're getting richer still. Or when you file your accounts in Charlestown or Bastia or both. Lord, that won't fulfill. Mr. Premier, Mr. Prime Minister, we're still losing money. We can't give the people the $1 million that we promised. We can't get it, but they're making money. In the meantime, we're going to give you $100 a month US. I mean, that's insulting. You don't think so? It was 30 a month, which to me rang very similarly to the 30 pieces of silver with Judas. No, I can't find anything to commend or support this project. I am not saying that there's no room in our national development future for projects, special projects. But this is so special, it's sour. And it's too special for us. Let them go to a big place and do that. We
But
can make it.
why
Those lands, sorry, those
go
lands
ahead,
can be
finish up
made,
your point.
those lands can be put to use by the people of Nevis. It's just that they have not been up to date. And let me tell you, as long as a project is funded by the CBI, it means that the developers either do not have the money to do it, so they want passport money to do it, or they have the money to do it, but they ain't gonna risk their money.
If this is the case, why is
Yeah.
that Christoph Harbour, Marriott, all these entities are getting bailed out by our local banks, and all this craziness, and all the large development, the capital project, the Bastia High School, the housing development under Mr. Hanley, all these are exploited outside. All these things should have been done locally. So these things
Well,
just don't make no sense
try
with all
to
this.
answer.
These things just make no sense.
Let me try to answer.
Yes.
The Christoph Harbour thing, I was in cabinet when that was approved. They had an emergency cabinet meeting, and they brought files 10 inches thick for each member of cabinet to go through over the weekend. They gave us on a Friday to come back the Monday to approve the project. I said, to come back Monday to approve? You mean to discuss? He said, no, approve, because the negotiating committee has already approved the general terms. So I said, which negotiating committee? So he named the 3 members. I said, well, we ain't authorized them to negotiate for us or to agree anything for us. We went back the Monday. Again, I was the lone voice of protest with Sam Kanda. They approved it on the Monday. And over the weekend, I spent a lot of time reading the document, and I did a long memorandum for cabinet. They didn't look at it. I said, we are creating a separate country. They're going to have power over us. It is wrong. If the man wants land to do development, allow him to get 300 acres and prove himself on that, not 2,000 acres. And it turned out borrowing money from the government, from the bank, from SIDF. By the way, SIDF owns 30% of Christoph Harbour. They own 30%. Now, with regard to Marriott, Marriott employs a large number of people. When you're dealing as a government with investors, you have to be very careful, because if you allow them to, they will five and dime you into poverty. But if a hotel like the Marriott with such a large footprint in the economy is having some difficulties, then it is not a crazy thing to consider assisting, say with payroll or something for a period of time, to keep the jobs going. Because if you can keep the jobs going, the demand of the hotel for goods and services, farm goods, groceries, and all of these things continues. So money can spin through the economy. So the benefits from your subsidy, even a temporary and limited subsidy, can reach the entire economy. So it's not, and I used to think that the banks here should not lend money to foreigners. Well, I don't think that anymore. I think locals should have very good access to the money. But if a foreigner wants to come in here and do a development, hi baby. My granddaughter saying good night. Say good night quickly, good night.
Good
Okay.
night. Good night.
Hold on. So if the bank can find, banks are in the business of financing, so they get interest and generate money. And if you're a bankable borrower and you want to borrow $20 million from a bank to do a project, whether you come from Timbuktu or Northern Ireland or whatever, if you are bankable and it's a good project and it is empowering our local people, then all of us are partnering in a development that will expand our economy and build our society. Because the money is there. But I always advocate that no development that marginalizes our people is proper development. You do not put us on the margins. You understand? You agree? Well, you don't have to agree, but you understand. So that's what I think. But you can't compare the Marriott with Christopher Harbour. You can't compare the two. I've heard people say, Mr. Brantley himself, I think, said, what about the Marriott in Christopher Harbour and Four Seasons? You can't compare Four Seasons with Destiny. You can't. They're not the same. Well, I don't think so, unless they're things I don't know. But Destiny is, and the lifestyle of these people, the philosophy of these people, they will overpower Nevis and St. Kitts. And then God knows what kind of trouble they'll bring to us, because we could get put on sanction, put on lists, put on all kind of things. And we don't have the power to change, because if these people are rich and they're making all this money, they could grease people's hand in St. Kitts and Nevis too and get what they want.
So
I
this
know.
is one of the challenges you have with the SSZ Act as well, in the sense that it has taken away a lot of the consultations with government agencies per se, and have just placed the power in case of Nevis, the hands of the Premier, and in the case of St. Kitts, just directly in the hands of the Prime Minister to make decisions without, even hearing from planning and all. Is that one of the issues that you have? And then I had another issue where right now we're having the issue with the fact that in terms of the Destiny project, where the government decided that they're going to put together this ad hoc committee. My issue with that was in the legislation for the SSZ, these legal-minded people who should know better in the sense of the difference between may and shall opted to put may instead of shall ensure that these committees are in place. So right now, the Prime Minister has put in place that committee. Nevis have opted not to do it. And so, these are some of the challenges that I found also in the SSZ Act as well. We are at that point where we are going to be wrapping up, but I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that and or any other thing, and then we get into the closing. I would have had a question in relation to agriculture and the Tabasco project and the 100 acres of land that would have been now allocated for farming, not just Tabasco, but they claim that they're going to be planting pumpkins and I think it's watermelons or something else. Sweet potato, sorry, pumpkin and sweet potato. I think I saw added to the list of products that are going to be going on that. So I don't know if you are in a position to respond to that in your wrap up as well.
Well, I don't know too much about the Tabasco project. Suffice it to say that a friend of mine in the excuse me, in the farming community believes that there are some scientific shortcomings in that process with Tabasco, something to do with the peppers and something. He told me, but I forget the details. But he was very convincing. You have to respect the intelligence of your people, and consult with them. You have to. This country should have been way ahead in food production. It should have been way ahead. In 1993, when I was on the platform for the first time, almost every meeting I said, our next set of millionaires must be our farmers and fishers. The farmers and fishers position the country, position the governance, position everything to focus on making us as self-sufficient as we can be in food. And in doing so, the governments have to exercise their muscles and not allow the food importers to dominate the game, which is what's happening. And don't forget, when election time comes, nobody coming to you for $1 million, for the election, You know who they're going to, right? So after the election, when the man say, boy, you get $1 million from me, you better don't forget who they're serving. You.
Well, I know
We
they
have
don't
to
play.
get this.
No, I was gonna say I know they don't play any allegiance to us. I know they ain't serving us.
Well, don't serve no allegiance to them either. They need you, you don't need them. As I told you, 50,000 have plenty more power than 11. That's 11. 1 after 10. 11. Let me tell you something
Okay.
quick. I'll wrap up with this. I'll wrap up with this. When I was in England studying, I don't think I told you all this tonight. I had a professor who was an English aristocratic fellow, very pompous and arrogant. And he was telling the class, big class, 200 people, how dignified and civilized England was. So I told him, sir, I stand up and talk. I said, I go to football every weekend in London here. From the subway or the bus stand to the football ground, police gauntlet. The fans have to walk through the police gauntlet to go behind the goal. The big supporters of each team and out. They mash up the train, they vandalize this, they fight, they get on like real animals, they beat up each other and so forth. I said, that's the same England you're talking about? He says, I want you to understand something. We have to create mechanisms for the working class people of England to vent their frustration and anger on each other. Because if they do not burn off that anger and negative energy on each other, they will turn it on us and on the state. That modus operandi is used today in our politics. Is used today in our politics. Turn A
Divide and
against
rule.
B. Divide and rule and fool. Divide, fool, and rule. So this is why I said 50,000 could do a lot more than 11. But we make them, when they win, all of a sudden the relationship changes. We're looking up to them on our knees. I'm not suggesting we disrespect them, but I'm suggesting we don't allow them to disrespect us. And we don't take sides. You might back a party. It doesn't mean you don't criticize them. If you love me and you see me doing something wrong, aren't you going to criticize me? And say, boy, Dwyer, no, you ain't going right. If you love me. But we don't have that mentality in this country. The minute you criticize me, I figure you're against me. And so
And you
with the
support
food
the
production,
opposition party.
yeah, foolishness. With food production, if leadership really wanted the farmers to get together and the fishers, you have primary produce, you have upward integration, packaging, processing, and that sort of thing. We could provide food for the ships, for the hotels, for St. Martin, St. Bart's, Anguilla. That's enough, even Antigua. We don't want to ship things to Europe. It can be done. And we tried it when I was Minister of Tourism, but not enough help. So we have a lot of things we could talk about still. Next time we
Yes.
talk God's life, I would like to give you
Yes.
all an understanding
Yes.
of programs that we had to stabilize the social problems and to help build the economy at the same time,
And
which
I'm
were
definitely
rejected.
going to
So
be looking forward. I'm definitely going to
Sorry?
be looking forward to that follow-up engagement because I know we still have a lot more things that we could touch on. So far, I must say that the callers, and not necessarily the callers, so we didn't have any callers, but the persons on the wall, there's still a number of questions and comments that are on the wall. I guess I'm going to go through that before we close off. But based on what I'm seeing so far, people appreciate you being here. People appreciate the responses that you would have. I mean, the last comment here I saw was spot on, Mr. Astaphan. That is exactly what the one in Nevis is doing, divide and fool and rule. Yes, Astaphan, I agree. It is the same England who gave us the Holy Constitution. Somebody said, listening to Dwyer, a retirement age individual brings focus to the disrespect meted out to retirees by the Premier concerning those vocally opposing the Destiny Project. We need to respect wisdom. And I'm just sharing some of the comments that we are having so far. Bankie, we are at that point where we are gonna wrap up, so I'm gonna give you a closing. But before I do, I'm gonna give the listening public and all those who are locked down with us while Bankie is making his closing. Take 10 seconds, go on over to our YouTube platform, click on the notification bell, like and subscribe before you leave here. Everybody, just that's all we're asking. We ain't asking for a donation, we ain't asking for money. Just go on over to our YouTube platform. That will do us very well if you subscribe to the platform and click on the notification bell. At the same time, I want to say thank you to Islander Water Sports and On the Rocks restaurant over there at the Old Water taxi facility. Also want to say enough respect to Shabazz Organics, Imperial Rides Taxi and Tours, and Naya's Classical Metalworks right down there on Penny's Road. So people, I want to thank all of you who are on the wall, all of you who might have wanted to call in. You know, it's too late now for you to call in, but definitely based on what we're hearing here, Mr. Astaphan is in agreement and is very much willing to come back with us. And so you're just going to have to keep your eyes and ears open for that date and time when we have Dwyer Astaphan back on the platform with us. Bankie, I don't know if there's anything that you would want to shoot over to Dwyer before we leave and or in your wrapping up. Give you that time to make your closing statement.
Yes, and I would just want to thank Dwyer again for accepting my invitation to come on the topics. Greatly appreciate it. I mean, I've learned so much. I mean, he went deep into history of 120 years of his family migrated here. That's real history right there. So he's definitely one of us. You understand? I also just want to thank the listening and viewing audience for sticking with us and having that interest and also being respectful to the guests and all the guests that we have here. I know it's known to be ask hard question. I know it is a hard question. We're just asking basic question and question that is not difficult. And so I don't know what is the difficult question. So I just want to say thanks to Dwyer again for choosing Real Entertainment Network and choosing the topics and giving us the chance to be up. Because once people come here, it's like they open up, we enter in their life, We can speak in their personal stuff. So I'm grateful for that. I mean, you have your family there, your grandchildren, them giving us good night. So it's very sentimental, and we're really grateful for that, and we don't take it for granted. So I just want to say thanks to the listening and viewing audience. Definitely, we have a show coming up on Friday. I suppose we'll have a special guest, hopefully that worked out, someone from Italy, people who I met at the shop on a daily basis, who is also a farmer. So again, Dwyer, big up yourself and keep doing what you're doing. I mean, they say you're controversial, but you're educating the general public, and it shows that the people are listening and stuff like that. So thanks again, greatly appreciated. And I'll reach out to you. Yahsonnn?
Yes, and I must say myself, thank you, Mr. Astaphan, for accepting the invitation and coming on the platform. I think the information that you shared was and is quite inspirational, educational, and informative. I dare say that myself, and I'm sure based on what I'm hearing from those who are on the platform, they are of the same view and opinion as well.
Yes.
I look forward to that follow up engagement. And I still see that there are a number of people who are on the platform who are of the view that you in the past have not necessarily been as critical as you should be or could be in relation to the premier. And so they are happy that you are now speaking out on the Destiny Project and so forth. There was even a question that asked if you actually did any consultation work for Mark and CCM in the past. So there's still that feeling. I don't know what is it that is causing the people to feel that you have some sort of bias, so to speak, towards the Premier and CCM. And so I guess we will be able to delve a little bit more into it when you get back on the platform with us. So I'll give you some time to think about it and not think about it, because I guess you might have an answer already set already, but to at least get back into it and maybe clear it up for especially the Nevision public. So thank you again. I want to thank Real Entertainment Network team. I want to thank everybody who are on the platform this evening. I want to encourage you, before you leave, go on over to the YouTube platform. That's all we're asking. Go over to the YouTube, click on the subscribe button, like it, share it if you want to as well, and click on the notification bell so that every time we have another program that you'll be informed. Islander Water Sports, On the Rocks, Imperial Rides, Taxi and Tours,
Yahsonnn.
Shabazz Organics, Metal, Classical Metal Works, there are pennies. Thank you. Bankie, yes?
Do I give a wrap up?
Yes,
Yes,
he did. He said,
okay,
yeah. He said
All
he
right,
was gonna wrap up
cool.
with that. Yeah. So,
Okay, cool.
if you want to, Mr. Astaphan, if you want to make a last comment before we wrap up, I'm gonna give you the floor.
Yes.
Okay, just give me 30 seconds.
Yes.
You said Yahsonnn, that some of your writers on the platform are saying that I wasn't speaking out against Mark before. Was I speaking out against the leader of NRP or the NRP? Have they heard me speak out against the leaders of the NRP? Some years ago, I told you how Mark and I first spoke earlier in the program, when
Yes.
on Rebel's program.
Webo. Yes.
Some years ago, when Mark was taking over the leadership of CCM, he invited me to give the feature address at the party's conference. And I accepted the invitation and I gave it. He's a charismatic guy, he's a bright guy, he's a young division. Okay? I gave the thing. No other party asked me to do it, but I've never said anything bad publicly about either. This issue, as I said, the Destiny issue, is a federal issue. You see, it's easy. You see, the person said, Gaston Brown, tell me, shut up, mind my own business. Well, people from Nevis have told me they want to stay out of the business. Okay, so do your thing. But if it is something that has federal implications, or if I am invited to express an opinion on something, I'll do so.
Thank you very
That's
much.
all.
I'm glad you were able to clear that up, and that's why we love to have our guests on the platform so they can speak for themselves. And as Bankie said, sometimes they say we ask a tough question, but we don't see any tough questions. Like for us, Mr. Astaphan, like we share with most of our guests, when we have them, we let them know it's just a reason. It's just as if we meet up downtown and Basti and we're having a conversation. That's what we try to.
Yes.
That's the kind of ambience and environment that we try to create with our interviews. So you should leave here feeling comfortable and welcome back anytime, because we just ask. If you want to answer, you answer. If you're not in a position to answer, we just move on to another question. It's as simple as that. But we would ask if we feel like asking. We would ask. We don't have any beef in the game either. But like you said earlier on in your presentation, sometimes when you go against or speak out against those who are in authority, they label you as the opposition. And that is sometimes where with it we find ourselves. But as you who would have been listening, I heard you mention that we do a good job here on the platform. I guess you listen and you realize that we have guests from all sides. We don't pick out. We have NRP people, we have CCM, we have PLP, we have Labour, we have PAM. I mean, and we deal with other topics as well. It's not just limited to politics. We go into religion, we go into health, we go into, that's what the topic is all about. So we want to thank you again, Mr. Astaphan. Thank you, our listeners. Just remember to go over to the YouTube platform, subscribe, and when you go over to Ireland, tell them that you hear the ads played here on Real Entertainment Network, and let them know when you go to On the Rocks that you'd have heard of them here on the platform. Thank you, Mr. Astaphan. Thank you, Bankie. Thank you, Ira and the Real Entertainment team. Until Friday, we see you again here on Real Entertainment Network.
Thank you, gentlemen. God bless.
I thank you again. Appreciate it.
Let me sing about the Nevis man, a true Rasta, living off the land, that's his mantra. Name is Bankie King. Hear me well. Got a patch of green and a story to tell. One morning peace was the order of day, till a policeman came to block the way. Warrant in hand, looking stern and grand. Bankie just lean on his hoe and stand. They asked Farmer Bankie, what you doing here? He said, cultivating what I hold dear. This is my medicine, this is my tea. This is the gift that Jah give to me. They say, but the law don't see it that way. Bankie said the law changed one day. Down to the courthouse, in the heat of the sun, Bankie tell the magistrate, work just begun. I grow for the elders, for the aches and pain. I grow for the young, who walk in the rain. This ain't no commerce, this ain't no vice. This is Nevis tradition, it have a price. Now here's the irony, the whole island know. They approve the farming, they promote the show. Same ones who clap, turn around and seize. But the farmer's still standing, taking the breeze. The magistrate nod, say you can play your part. Go on to the show, let the music start. Bankie thank the court, give a little smile, but his confiscated parts them keep a while. So he walk on stage with his